The battle for your focus begins now. Every day, your attention is under attack. You wake up, and before you even breathe in the morning air, your mind is already hijacked. Notifications, updates, comparisons, and expectations come crashing in. You scroll mindlessly, drowning in everyone else's highlight reels, wondering why your life feels stuck, scattered, or not enough. Deep down, something aches. Not for more likes, not for more noise, but for clarity. For stillness. For meaning. You know you're capable of more. You can feel it, like a quiet flame behind your ribs, begging for oxygen. But instead of rising into purpose, you find yourself consumed by the endless buzz of things that do not matter. Days blur. Focus slips. And your dreams? They quietly decay in the background. But what if I told you that buried beneath the chaos is a set of ancient tools, tested over 2,600 years, that can slice through the fog and bring you back to yourself? Not productivity hacks. Not surface-level affirmations. But deep, time-tested Buddhist teachings, designed not to motivate you temporarily, but to transform you completely. In this guide, we'll uncover 6 powerful lessons from Buddhist wisdom that will help you reclaim your focus, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. You will also meet real-life examples and modern interpretations that show these teachings aren't just for monks in mountain temples, they're for you, right here, in the middle of your busy, modern life. This is not a self-help checklist. This is a call to return to what matters. To focus on you, unapologetically and wholeheartedly. The storm of life will never stop raging. But you can become the stillness in the eye of it. Let's begin. Lesson 1. The Potter's Wheel of Karma. You are the sculptor of your life. Imagine walking into a quiet pottery studio. The air smells faintly of earth and clay. A potter sits at her wheel, hands steady, eyes focused, molding a formless lump into something beautiful. Each spin of the wheel, each press of her fingers, shapes the final creation. Now imagine that potter is you, and the clay is your life. But here's the truth, most people don't realize they're holding the clay. Instead, they stare at the spinning wheel, blaming its speed, its rhythm, its unpredictability. They say things like, "If only I had more money. If only I hadn't grown up the way I did. If only they hadn't left me." But if only has never shaped a single masterpiece. In Buddhist philosophy, karma isn't some cosmic punishment or reward system. It's far simpler and far more empowering. It's the law of intentional action. Every thought you hold, every word you speak, every decision you make is a stroke on the sculpture of your life. Real talk, you're already creating, whether you realize it or not. A friend of mine, Lena, used to say her life was cursed. She grew up in a broken household, always struggling to survive. In her early 30s, she was stuck in a job she hated, numbing herself with endless TV and takeout. Every setback she faced, she blamed on bad luck or her upbringing. Until one day, she stumbled upon a line from the Buddha. "You are the heir to your actions." It struck her. She realized she had been giving away her power by blaming her past. So, she began small, waking up an hour earlier, cooking instead of ordering, journaling about her choices each night. Within a year, she had changed careers and found peace she never thought was possible. She didn't change her past. She changed her relationship to it. She stopped being molded and started molding. The spiritual science of ownership. Taking ownership isn't about guilt. It's about freedom. It means asking, what am I allowing in my life? What am I ignoring that's shaping my outcomes? What am I creating through unconscious repetition? This kind of radical self-awareness is what Buddhists call mindfulness, but not the Instagrammed version with candles and soft music. This is gritty, honest mindfulness. The kind that stares you in the eye and says, you are responsible for the shape of your life. That's not scary. That's liberation. A practice, the 2 questions before bed. Each night before you sleep, ask yourself, 1. What did I create today? 2. What did I contribute to my current reality, good or bad? Don't judge. Don't shame. Just notice. Because awareness is the potter's hand. Without it, the wheel spins you into patterns you never chose. Ask yourself, are you letting someone else sculpt your clay? Are you living by design or by default? What masterpiece could you create if you shaped your days with intention? The potters will keep spinning. Your life is in motion, whether you participate or not. But the choice to mold, to shape, to create intentionally, that's always yours. Lesson 2, the bridge of right intention. Stop waiting. Start walking. Picture this, you're standing at the edge of a vast canyon. On one side, there's where you are now, confused, uncertain, maybe even regretful. On the other side, there's a life of clarity, purpose, and peace. The space between? That's your potential. The only way to cross it is to build a bridge, one plank, one choice, one intention at a time. But here's the tragedy, most people never start building. They stare at the canyon. They journal vague dreams. They make vision boards that gather dust. And they wait for motivation, for a sign, for the right time. But as Buddhism teaches, direction isn't found. It's created. And it starts with right intention, the second step of the Noble Eightfold Path. What is right intention, really? It's not just about having good motives. It's about having clear, conscious, deliberate aims for how you want to live and who you want to become. The Buddha said, "A disciplined mind brings happiness." And discipline begins with direction. Without intention, your mind becomes like a flashlight with dying batteries, flickering, inconsistent, weak. But with clear purpose, your mind becomes a laser, cutting through doubt and distraction with ease. Story time, the man who couldn't decide. A client of mine, Jason, was a talented graphic designer. He told me he wanted to do something bigger. When I asked what that meant, he said, "I don't know, just more meaningful." For years, he floated, taking jobs he didn't love, chasing trends, burning out. Finally, we did a simple exercise. I asked him to write down one I am statement, not a goal, but a declaration. He wrote, "I am a visual storyteller who brings wisdom to life through design." That one sentence changed everything. Within 6 months, Jason left freelance chaos, joined a nonprofit designing educational tools, and finally felt fulfilled. Because his bridge had finally begun. Practice, blueprint your bridge. Too often, we set goals like their birthday wishes. I want to be happy. I want success. I want peace. But Buddhist wisdom demands specificity. Instead of "I want to be healthy," say, "I am someone who prioritizes daily movement and nourishing food." Instead of "I want to be successful," declare, "I am building a business that helps others while honoring my values." Here's why this works. When you write "I am" statements, you rewire your subconscious. You stop chasing change and start embodying it. The harsh truth, vague desires don't build bridges. Every day you hesitate, the canyon of uncertainty gets wider. Every day you drift, the bridge stays unfinished. But here's the power of this lesson. The first plank is the hardest and also the most powerful. Once you take the first step with clarity, momentum builds. Doubt loses its grip. Chaos fades into background noise. Ask yourself, are you living by vague hopes or detailed intentions? What I am statement could redefine how you show up tomorrow. What would your future self thank you for doing today? So take a breath. Look across the canyon. Picture your better life on the other side. Now stop waiting and start building. One intention. One plank. One powerful step at a time. Lesson 3, the forge of self-mastery, where discipline becomes power. There's a forge inside you. Not a metaphorical one, not symbolic, a real one. A mental blacksmith's workshop, glowing with fire and potential. But here's the uncomfortable truth, most people let their forge go cold. They wake up, reach for their phones, scroll for validation, and wonder why they feel weak, distracted, and unfocused. They say things like, "I just don't have the motivation." I'm too tired after work. I'll start tomorrow. But your potential won't wait for motivation. It waits for heat. It waits for effort. It waits for discipline. What self-mastery really means. In Buddhism, mastery of the mind is one of the highest goals. Why? Because the mind is both the battlefield and the weapon. The Buddha said, "Irrigators guide water, Fletchers shape arrows, and the wise shape themselves." The world is full of people shaping external things, projects, profits, public image. But very few shape themselves. Self-mastery is not a trend. It is a lifelong craft. Story: the teen who transformed through fire. A 17-year-old boy I once mentored was addicted to online gaming, 12 hours a day, escaping real life into fantasy. His grades dropped. His self-esteem collapsed. His family lost hope. But when I introduced him to the idea of using ritual as discipline, not punishment, something clicked. We started with 15 minutes a day, reading one Buddhist sutra, journaling one line of reflection, and walking in silence. He fought it. He relapsed. But he kept returning to the forge. 2 years later, he's studying psychology and helping other teens navigate digital addiction. He didn't change overnight. He changed over time. Drop by drop, the pot fills. Practice, fire versus rust. Ask yourself, when was the last time you chose discomfort for the sake of your growth? Are you letting your forge burn or letting your potential rust? Social media isn't evil, but it is engineered to steal your attention, your fire. Imagine if you swapped 15 minutes of scrolling each day for reading a sutra, practicing mindful breathing, writing down one toxic habit to release. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing one thing with consistency. Small, unsexy, unshakable habits. We love to romanticize the grind, the hustle, the big transformation. But real self-mastery is boring. It's repetition. It's small wins stacked over time. Think. 10 push-ups every morning. 5 minutes of meditation after brushing your teeth. 1 affirmation before your first coffee. They're small, but they forge you. Because discipline isn't loud, it's quiet power. Ask yourself, what is one habit that, if practiced daily, would change your life? What skill could unlock the next level of your growth? Are you consuming or creating your future? Your mind is not weak, it's waiting. Your forge is not cold, it needs you to strike. So the next time you feel lost or numb, don't ask for more motivation. Step into the fire. Pick up the hammer. Begin the shaping. Self-mastery isn't about controlling life. It's about becoming so strong within that life cannot shake you. Lesson 4, the archer's discipline, the power of one precise shot. An archer doesn't hit the target by accident. He stands still. He aligns his stance. He calms his breath. And only then, when the wind settles and his focus sharpens, does he release the arrow. Focus, in this sense, isn't just about aiming. It's about waiting. About being still long enough to let clarity arrive. And that, in today's hyperstimulated world, might be the rarest discipline of all. Focus is not talent, it's technique. People often think focus is something you're born with, she's just really good at concentrating, or he's naturally driven. But Buddhism teaches us otherwise. Discipline isn't restriction, it's structure. Like the banks of a river, discipline doesn't block the flow, it guides it. Without it, the water floods in every direction, wasting its force. With it, it becomes unstoppable, capable of carving through mountains. Drop by drop, the water pot fills. The Buddha. This ancient truth reveals a modern secret: the biggest transformations come from the smallest repeated acts. Story: the meditation that built a marathoner. A woman named Sarah used to struggle with panic attacks. The thought of meditation terrified her. I can't sit still, I can't clear my mind, I'll fail. So we started with 1 minute. Every morning, after brushing her teeth, she'd sit quietly for just 60 seconds. Then she'd write down one word to describe how she felt. Within 3 months, it became 5 minutes. Then 10. Eventually, she applied that same discipline to running. 2 years later, she ran her first marathon, not because she was born athletic, but because she had learned the art of the archer: consistent, deliberate, focused movement. Practice, anchor new habits to old routines. If you want a habit to stick, don't just schedule it, attach it. Try. Right after brushing your teeth, meditate for 3 minutes. Right before your first sip of coffee, write down 3 things you're grateful for. After closing your laptop at work, take 3 deep breaths in silence. These aren't time-consuming, but they're transformational. Because every time you repeat a small, intentional act, you're strengthening the archer's stance. You're building a nervous system that knows how to focus. Why most people miss the target? It's not because they're lazy. It's because they quit standing. They chase too many targets. They rush the shot. They move before the arrow flies. But mastery isn't found in doing more. It's found in doing one thing with total presence. Bruce Lee once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Let that sink in. Ask yourself, what one small habit could change your life if done daily for a year? What routine already exists in your day that could anchor that habit? Are you holding your stance long enough to aim with purpose? The archer's power lies in stillness, in repetition, in the commitment to not release until alignment is perfect. So, what's your arrow today? Choose it. Align your stance. Hold steady. And when you're ready, release with full presence. That's how targets are hit. That's how lives are changed. Lesson 5, the riverbank of equanimity, finding stillness in the flood. Life doesn't ask for your permission to change. One day the sun is out and your plans are flowing smoothly. The next, the sky cracks open, your world is turned upside down, and you're swept into a storm of stress, deadlines, heartache, and uncertainty. Most people react the same way. They fight the river. They thrash, resist, panic, trying to control the uncontrollable. But Buddhism teaches something radically different. Be the riverbank, not the river. Let that image sit with you. The river may rage, but the bank holds firm. It doesn't stop the flow. It doesn't argue with the water. It simply remains. That is equanimity. What is equanimity, really? Equanimity isn't passiveness. It's not indifference. It's the calm clarity that comes when you recognize what is within your control and what is not, and you learn to release the latter. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." In other words, stop trying to fix the weather. Build a shelter within. Story, the email that didn't break her. A woman named Michelle worked as a project manager in a high-stress corporate firm. She was always on edge, emails at 2 a.m., endless meetings, toxic colleagues. One day, she received an aggressive message from her boss that normally would have spiraled her into anxiety for days. But something had changed. She'd been practicing a simple question. Is this mine to solve? She read the email. She paused. She breathed. And she answered, "No, this is their emotion, not mine." She addressed the facts, responded professionally, and let the storm pass without letting it enter her. That's equanimity in action. And it saved her mental health. Practice the 3 things you can control. In any moment of stress, ask yourself, 1. Your breath, are you breathing consciously or reactively? 2. Your effort, are you showing up with integrity? 3. Your ethics, are you acting from your values or from fear? Everything else? Let it float down the river. You can't control what people say about you, how your boss feels today, whether the flight is delayed, whether the stock market crashes, what your ex thinks of your healing journey. But you can control how you show up, how you respond, and what you nurture inside. The silent thief, emotional rehearsal. Many of us waste our energy reliving moments of anger, hurt, or frustration, like a bad movie on repeat. But the more we emotionally rehearse what we cannot change, the more power we lose. And the less capacity we have for what truly matters: creativity, focus, compassion, joy. Let it go. Not for them, for you. Ask yourself, what are you still trying to control that was never yours to carry? What would happen if you stopped swimming against the current? How much energy would you reclaim if you let go of the need to fix everything? Equanimity isn't a trait. It's a training. It's built moment by moment, each time you pause, each time you breathe, each time you choose presence over panic. So when the next storm hits, and it will, remember, you don't have to become the chaos. You can become the shore. Lesson 6. The phoenix of right view, rise from the flames. Fire destroys, but it also creates. Forests burn, and new life begins. Stars explode, and galaxies are born. Hearts break, and deeper truths emerge. We are told to fear failure, to run from pain, to avoid discomfort. But in Buddhist wisdom, there's a radically liberating idea. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And those who learn how to see pain with the right view rise like the phoenix. What is right view? In the Noble Eightfold Path, right view is the gateway. It's the lens through which all other practices flow. It's the ability to see things as they truly are, not through the fog of our expectations, judgments, or fears. It's the inner shift from, why is this happening to me? To, what is this teaching me? It's the perspective that transforms obstacles into invitations. It doesn't deny pain, it reframes it. Story: the fall that saved his life. Derek, a startup founder I met through a meditation retreat, had what looked like the perfect life: wealth, status, influence. Until it all burned down. A failed acquisition. Legal threats. Depression. He told me, I felt like the universe had turned against me. But something strange happened. Stripped of his identity, with no one to impress, he began to ask deeper questions. He started studying the Dhammapada. He took long, silent walks without headphones. And then, one morning, he told me, I think I wasn't being destroyed. I was being redirected. Today, Derek runs a nonprofit helping young men process grief and purpose through meditation and community. He didn't bounce back, he rose back, different. Just like a phoenix. Practice, flip the script on pain. After every failure, loss, or heartbreak, write this sentence. This happened for me because _______________________ dot. At first, it will feel forced. Your ego will resist. But repeat it anyway. Maybe. This happened for me because I needed to learn boundaries. This happened for me because I was chasing something that wasn't mine. This happened for me because I was asleep to my own truth. Eventually, your brain will start asking different questions, not why life hurts, but how the hurt can guide you. And that's the beginning of liberation. Ask yourself, what recent pain are you still labeling as punishment instead of preparation? What truth is your suffering trying to reveal? What version of yourself is waiting on the other side of this fire? The phoenix doesn't rise despite the flames. It rises because of them. So if you're in the fire right now, don't run. Let it burn what no longer serves you. Let it purify the noise. Let it turn endings into beginnings. Because your ashes are not your end. They are your origin. Bonus lesson: the lighthouse of prioritization. Stop chasing, start shining. A lighthouse doesn't chase after ships. It doesn't flicker with uncertainty. It doesn't get dragged by tides or pulled into every storm. It stands firm. It shines with clarity. And because of that, others find their way. Now ask yourself, are you the lighthouse in your life? Or are you the ship, lost in chaos, pulled by distraction, reacting to everything, guiding nothing. In the age of doing more, we've lost the art of doing what matters. The illusion of productivity. We live in a world that confuses busyness with purpose. We check notifications during meals, reply to emails while in conversation, and bounce between 17 browser tabs thinking we're making progress. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to a distraction, you say no to your legacy. Zen masters call this Ichigo Ichi, one time, one meeting. It means, be where you are. Completely. When you walk, just walk. When you eat, just eat. When you create, just create. Multitasking doesn't make you effective. Presence does. Story, the musician who found his light. Javier was a gifted jazz pianist who couldn't finish a single project. He'd start a composition, then jump to another. He'd book gigs, then cancel them. He blamed it on creative chaos. Until one night, his mentor said, "Javier, you're not lost because you lack talent. You're lost because you lack focus." That hit him. Javier took a month off. He turned off social media, unplugged his phone, and set one rule, one song at a time, 1 hour of deep focus daily. 6 weeks later, he recorded his first full EP. He cried when he finished, not because it was perfect, but because it was complete. He had finally become the lighthouse. Practice, use the distraction jar. Here's a simple but powerful habit. Every time something steals your attention, write it down and drop it into a distraction jar. At the end of the day, review the slips. You'll be surprised how many of them were completely unnecessary. This practice trains your mind to recognize what's urgent but meaningless, and what's quiet but essential. Ask yourself, what are you shining your light on? Are you guiding yourself with clarity, or getting swept into other people's storms? What masterpiece remains unfinished because your focus was stolen? Stop scattering your energy. Start choosing your direction deliberately. Because the world doesn't need another busy person. It needs someone who stands firm. Who knows their path. Who shines with such stillness and certainty that others feel calm just by being near them. Be that person. Be the lighthouse. Conclusion, return to yourself. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need more intention. These 6 Buddhist lessons aren't about becoming someone else. They're about returning, fully, to who you've always been beneath the noise. Focused. Present. Powerful. Shape your life like the potter. Walk your path with clear intention. Discipline your mind like a blacksmith. Steady your focus like an archer. Stand firm like the riverbank. And rise again, like the phoenix, from every fall. Because the world will keep spinning. The storms will come. But you are the lighthouse. And your light, focused, still, unwavering, can guide your whole life home.